All right, what's up, everybody? We are back to have another chit chat on YouTube. Last time Casey and I spoke, we were in our home, and I got to do most of the talking with Casey interviewing me. I felt like it went pretty darn well.
Yeah.
But the only thing is, I got to do most of the talking. And I really wanted to have an opportunity for Casey to have the microphone and to tell us a little more about him, not just the how we met. That was most of my story, and he loves it when I tell that story. But I think the part of the story that Casey tells the best is what happened to our family around 2015. We had been married
Almost
for
10 years.
almost 10 years.
Right at 10 years.
Nine-ish, 9, 10 years. We were living in San Antonio, and there were just some things that started in 2015 that led us to eventually open our gym in 2023. What we've preached in the last couple of videos is we are all uniquely qualified to help the person that we used to be. So my first question to Casey is, who was that person that you used to be? What was different in 2015 versus opening the gym, Casey, in 2023?
Oh, okay. She didn't tell me that question was coming. So, but that being the case, yeah, 2015, you and I had been married for almost 10 years. And at the risk of sharing too much life story before 2015, maybe there'll be an occasion to share more about the details of how I grew up and where I'm from later. Um, I will say this: I was a former athlete, um, primarily football, and in 2015, I was a football coach and a soccer coach, and I had also spent some time coaching some basketball. I was a Spanish teacher at the high school level, and you were at home taking care of our girls.
Right.
Because I had tried to convince myself that it was a good idea to have one income for our family and be able to keep my wife in the home to raise our daughters and get them ready to go to school one day.
Mm-hmm.
And so we scraped by.
Yeah.
I had started my coaching career in 2008 in the state of Utah, but by 2012 we had moved to San Antonio, and in 2015 I was the kind of person that exercised and tried to pretend like I still had some athletic ability from time to time, or set an example for my players, because I really couldn't stand the coaches that were 300 plus pounds that would bark at young athletes about discipline and hard work and commitment. Like, that just irritated me. But I was quickly on my way to 250 pounds myself, because the way I had eaten as a teenager and the way I had eaten when I was in college playing football was how I continued to eat in my 30s. And
I was gonna
then,
say you were about mid 30s.
yeah, I was 35
Yeah.
years old.
Mm-hmm.
I was born in 79. So 2015, I was on my way to 36 years old. And Marci is the best baker that I've ever met.
It's true.
Mostly her chocolate chip cookies are phenomenal. I do the cheesecake, she makes the cookies.
Yeah.
Story for another day.
We just like food.
But in 2015, our whole story about wanting a gym is actually your dad's fault. At Christmas time, you often get gifts from parents, or sometimes a father-in-law, mother-in-law Christmas gift. And when you open it up, you're grateful for what they sent you, even though you're not even sure if it's something you'll ever use or need or want or whatever it might be.
Mm-hmm.
And that particular Christmas, so it would have been 2014 at Christmas time, your dad sent me a book by Darren Hardy called The Compound Effect. And for the first time in my life, I picked up a personal development, self-help, personal growth and development type of book. Mm-hmm. And I read it.
Can I interject real quick?
Please do. Yes.
Our whole marriage to this point, the only thing Casey had ever told me about reading books was, I just don't read. I don't read to be entertained. If I'm going to read, maybe it's something to learn something. Yeah. And so when I looked over Christmas Day, or maybe it was the day after, and I saw you reading that book. It was a first.
Yeah.
I was surprised.
Yeah, I've never been one to read for entertainment. If I could learn something when I was younger, I'd pick it up on animals or something like that. Or if there was a book on drawing techniques or something, I'd pick it up. But I'm no fan of Harry Potter and Lord of the Rings, right? Like I can't get into a fictional fantasy book. I can't even really get into just a realistic fiction type book. It just has never been my thing. I think in the fourth grade, I read Indian in the Cupboard, and it was entertaining enough because I had a good fourth grade teacher who made that book worth the read. But I think the same year we read The Secret Garden, and I was bored to tears the entire time, even though it's a classic, whatever. And so I've never read for entertainment. But this book, The Compound Effect, pick it up if you've never read it before, by Darren Hardy, shared some wonderful principles about changing habits and how to change those habits little by little. And as an educator, that was important for me from a learning perspective, where somebody was actually giving me a practical way to accomplish or put into practice the concepts that they were sharing in their novel or their book, whatever. It wasn't a novel, it was a book. And it also went over some other principles that even just had to do with finances and other important areas of your life, where if you can figure out, much like compound interest on a retirement account, if you can figure out how to lay down enough positive actions and lay down enough positive habits over time, they will stack up against one another. And even though you may not be able to see the difference on day 1, year 5, year 10, if you do enough of the right things long enough, and if you subtract enough of the wrong habits long enough, or you eliminate enough of the wrong habits for long enough and only worry about stacking the positive choices, eventually you're going to find your life in a position that you could not have imagined previously. The same way that people are shocked when they look at how compound interest works, and their account has gone from, yes, the hundreds or thousands of dollars that they invested, and over time it is amortized into hundreds of thousands or millions of dollars potentially. And it's the only way to truly build the wealth in that way. And so if you want to build a wealthy life, is what this book talked about, you have to figure out how to stack enough of those positive habits so that you have the life that you want. So I read this book and nothing changed. I just had planted some seeds in my head to the idea that personal growth and development, success, building a vision for my life is something that kind of now interested me for the first time. But in one of my days that I was still very unhappy, right? I knew I was unhappy, right? Like there was something very unfulfilling about my career. There was something unfulfilling about church sometimes. There was stuff unfulfilling about, where our relationship was and how exciting our family was and what were we doing with our life and how much energy was there and what we were accomplishing. We were just doing what
I could feel this from Casey. I could feel like he enjoyed coaching, but I knew you weren't happy. There was a lot of frustration that overpowered I like to coach on Friday nights. The rest of the week, there was just a lot of well, let's just say this: Casey wears his emotions on his sleeve. He's always
That's
right
why I'm going
there.
sleeveless today.
And as the wife who likes to make people happy, we talked about that in the first video, it felt like there wasn't much I was doing that could really pull you out of a funk, or I felt helpless. So
yeah, she's not wrong, and it was nothing that Marci had said or done.
Yeah.
It was just my inability to, like I said, find happiness, to find fulfillment in the life that I was living. And I was lying to myself. Every Monday I had to convince myself that I loved what I did because of some frankly bullshit intrinsic value that I was supposed to find in a high school classroom or on a high school soccer field or football field or in the weight room at the high school or in the coach's office. I was looking for this feeling that gave me purpose and meaning. And
but would you say too, you feel like, okay, I've checked boxes in my life that society tells you to check. You graduated high school, You served a
Yes.
mission for our church. You went to college. You got married. You know, there were certain life boxes you checked, but it was still like, why are we?
Yeah. I
Why
feel
do I feel
like
this way?
outside of committing a few, poor choices as a teenage boy, nothing heinous or overly villainous in nature. Like my sins and crimes as a teenager were nothing that, other people would consider
Sure.
so ungodly that, I should be damned. But for all intents and purposes, I checked off all the boxes. And that's
Yeah.
more of a life story
Yeah,
question,
that can
but
be.
it was like, do what you're
Yeah.
told, get your education. But I guess more importantly, I think what Marci is alluding to is that I was very much given the idea that there is one path to happiness and success.
Right.
I was put into a box and I was taught to conform and I was taught to rule follow, and it just became part of my personality. Policies and procedures and rules and expectations and doing what's right, even if you don't like to, and listening to words like "because I said so" were what I was raised in. Yeah, try using that with today's generation, "because I said so," and see how far that gets you.
Why? But
But in 2015, I'd read this book, and my father-in-law, I've always had a tremendous level of respect for him because of how hard he works, and that was really the reason that I even took the time to read it. And since reading that, it put us on a path in a direction that I never really anticipated at the time, because I went for a run, I don't know, sometime in the spring or late winter. I remember it was dark outside. We were living in San Antonio.
it was the spring.
And I was probably 45 minutes outside, and it was miserable. I don't like running. I'm not what you consider a runner. But I knew I was eating like a horse because I still ate probably 3,000 or 4,000 calories a day or more, depending on the weekend.
You had a closet.
And I would work
habit
out.
of
Well, that's,
eating.
that was bad. Yeah. I'd
Tell
drive
that.
through. Yeah. There were times that, holy cow.
Yeah.
I was working at a school that was 45 minutes away from where we lived, okay? And when you're beat to shit tired after football practice, me and my buddy, who worked on the campus together, we both lived on the other side of town, we would drive through either Jack in the Box or Taco Bell, or we would roll through Flying J and grab 2 hot dogs and a drink. It didn't matter. We ate fourth meal on the way home and then ate whatever our wives had prepared for us at the
I
house
had
when
no
we got
idea.
there. Marci had no clue that I was probably spending 30, 40 bucks a week on a teacher's salary just eating dog shit on the way home after football practice. Because guess what? We eat our emotions.
We sure
And when
do.
you're hungry and when you're frustrated and tired and you're feeling a little bit depressed, probably, even though it's not clinically diagnosed, I knew it was in there somewhere. I think even one time I had told you that I felt a little depression at one point. That's another story. But we eat for comfort. Because for that 10 minutes, I'll tell you what, a couple of items from Taco Bell, nothing tastes better. And then 10 minutes later, you wish you hadn't eaten it. Yeah. Anyway, so yeah,
And then you're on a run.
I was getting heavy, right?
Yeah.
I was getting heavy. So I was trying to work out. I was running. I went for this run, and I had seen a few little pieces of communication about this transformation program that a supplement company was offering. The company was called Advocare, not important right now, but I got home from this run and I walked in the door and I felt just miserable. The whole time I was outside, the run was miserable. And I looked at Marci and I was like, all right, that's it. I'm done. And I shit you not, she probably thought for a moment, because at least it's what her face said. She's like, what do you, in her mind, I could see the wheels turning as though like, what does he mean he's done? Like, I thought our marriage was happy. Like, what is he talking about? Like, I could tell instantly I had chosen the wrong words when I came in and said, that's it, I'm done. So when I saw the worry cross her face, I was like, no, I just spent the last 45 minutes feeling like I was running with a 10-year-old on my back, and I have got to lose this weight. I don't care what I have to do, how much I have to work, how much I have to change our food habits. I'm going to order a shit ton of supplements and I'm going to get some for you. And if you don't take them, guess what? I'm going to take them too, because you probably don't even need them. So I'm going to use twice as much as I need. And I just went off. And so for probably 3 or 4 minutes, maybe not even that long, maybe less, maybe longer, Marci just sat there with this deer in the headlights look as I just lost my shit for a moment about how unhappy I was with the way I felt physically. But I knew that how I felt physically was finally just the culmination of everything that I was feeling inside. And at the end of it, it was kind of one of those like, and there, like, that's how it's going to, yeah. And I'm going to spend money we don't have. And that's what I'm going to do. Because all the stuff I was talking about doing had to be put on a credit card. Remember, her teacher's salary, she wasn't doing anything except make sure our children would survive and flourish, right? She was doing a great job at being mom, but there was no income coming in anywhere else. And she just looked at me like, okay. And I can't remember her exact reaction, but she really was speechless. And normally in this situation, she would offer me a cookie, like, or something to eat to help kind of like take the edge off and get me to calm down. Like,
well, I just
or
made
say like,
dinner.
I made dinner, I made cookies, like that type. It's like, and it was that night that Marci said something that really hit me harder than you can possibly imagine. And she did it with all of the best intentions to try to soften the situation. She tried to bring in a little bit of sarcastic humor. And I've told this story before. You know, when sarcasm or humor comes from the wrong source, or when anger comes from the wrong source, when frustration comes from the wrong source, it's like drinking chocolate milk from a water fountain. It just like it might be okay. Like it's not like the chocolate milk's bad, but you get that funny look in your face, like, why the hell is there chocolate milk coming out of this water fountain? What is going on here? Well, that is Marci and sarcasm. That is Marci and like little jabs of humor. She's so sweet and so pure, and her personality is so blue. I'm a very gold person. Explanation of the day. She has such a blue personality when it comes to taking care of people and loving people and being the peacemaker and the servant-oriented person that she is, that when she said these following words that were very much not a blue personality type comment, it hit me extremely hard, to the point where I'm usually the one that forgets things. And this is something that she didn't even realize she had said until I brought it up a few years later. But at that night, as I was sitting there bitching about everything that was going wrong with how I felt, my energy levels, how fat I was, how tired I felt, how hard it was to work out, how disgusted I was with how I looked in my clothes, everything, right? How dissatisfied I was with my life. She looked at me. Anyway, she just said, babe, you know what? I've always said the fork doesn't lift itself. I was like, wow. And she said it with her beautiful smile and her very caring eyes. She tried to make a joke to alleviate the situation. But she might as well have said the words, well, you're the one who fucking lifts up the food all the time with your own hands and feeds yourself. Like, she could have said those exact words, but that's not how Marci talks.
The impact that
right?
had on him.
She said the fork doesn't lift itself. Mm-hmm. I mean, what a what a fantastic way of saying you have no discipline. You have all the control over the world about what you do with your life when it comes to how you eat, how you take care of your body, because she's absolutely right. And I didn't have a comment for her. I just got very quiet, I remember.
I remember that part. You didn't really say much.
And it sunk in deep because she was 100% right. The fork does not lift itself. And over the course of the next 2+ months, I worked out and I changed my eating habits in ways that most people would consider unreasonable. Yeah. And I created a before and after photo. I'm sure we'll find a way to share it here on the video, because I've still got this side-by-side video. But in 66 days, I lost almost 40 pounds. I think it was 36, almost 37 pounds. And felt completely different.
I saw
as a man,
light
as a
come
person,
back into your eyes that I hadn't seen in a long time.
And
that was exciting.
And I changed. I had what most people would consider one of those photos you see in the old, stupid infomercials from the 80s and 90s, where at the bottom in very fine print it says things like results not typical. I feel like I had one of those infomercial type transformations, because in just over 2 months, I had a waistline. I got down to a 34-inch pant for the first time in my life. I can't remember a time that I ever wore a 32 or a 34-inch pant. I went from size 16 boys husky to 36-inch man pants in high school. So somewhere between freshman and sophomore year, I went from a 16 pant for young men's, where my mom started buying me men's clothing, and I had to go straight to a 36-inch pant because my butt and my thighs were too big for a 34-inch or a 32-inch pant. And I got into a 34-inch waist for the first time. I put on a size large and then even a size medium t-shirt because it felt good to see my chest and my arms for the first time in years.
So from that, do you remember the first time you expressed wanting to have a gym?
Yes and no. I remember thinking in 2015, after I'd had my results for a little while, segueing into 2016. I don't know exactly when it happened, but I do remember thinking to myself, I want a gym one day. And I didn't voice it to you either for a while. It just never really came out.
The first time you told me.
When did I first tell you?
The first time he told me this, I can't remember exactly the year, but we were driving home from Dallas. We had gone to an Advocare event where it's a big
the
rah,
supplement
rah.
company I was using.
We enjoyed their supplements for a while. Casey got great results on them, but we were driving home from this event that we, on a whim, had gone to, and he said to me in the car, "Babe, I think I want a gym one day, and we could call it Champion Fitness Center." And I looked at him and I just thought, what in the world? I'm so glad you lost a lot of weight and you're excited about life. But
how did we go from you losing weight to gym owners?
What the hell? And I kid you not, it was from that moment on that he started bringing it up more and more. And every time he did, I became a little bit fearful, a lot of fearful, and just my brain instantly went to how is this going to happen? Because we have little girls. You're always busy now. How are we ever going to see you? I can't help you. I don't know what to do to run a gym, to own a gym. We have no money. We have no time. And I seriously would pray that you would forget you ever had that idea.
Wow. She prays a lot. She's much better with prayer than I am. That's crazy.
But I have to tell you, I am so grateful that of all my prayers, that one was never answered.
Oh, wow.
Because
I'm just learning about that one for the first time. I didn't know she prayed against the gym. That's
prayed against it. But I will say that if Casey had not pursued that crazy idea, our family's life would not change for the better, because our family now is on a totally different trajectory than what it was in 2015.
I'll tell you what, I don't know exactly when the thought first came to my mind.
Yeah.
And I didn't even know how to put what I was thinking into words. I just felt like I could help other people do exactly what I had done. I felt like I could find other frustrated men or women for that matter, but frustrated people who were dissatisfied, unfulfilled, angry, didn't even know it, where like their mind and heart were just as messed up as their body, right? Maybe their relationships were suffering because of it. And I just knew that I could help other people not feel that way anymore.
Right.
It wasn't until later, through deeper dives into the personal development world and getting in touch with other mentors, like the personal development space has become my mentors, right? I can't afford to get Darren Hardy's attention to thank him for the book, The Compound Effect. I can say thank you to my father-in-law for sending us the book, right? I can't reach out personally to Grant Cardone or to Gary Vee or to Rory Vaden or Ed Milet or Andy Frisella or any of the people that have been, Jocko Willink, Napoleon Hill, like who was the other guy, the little short dude? Tony Robbins' mentor. Oh, I'm blanking on his name right now. Anyway, I can't thank the mentors that were huge for me over the course of the next few years after that initial transformation in 2015.
You went on to read many books.
But I became, for all intensive purposes, what one of my mentors called a success zombie. Somebody who started studying ways to improve their life and hesitated at every opportunity to take action. And so from 2015 till 2022, I was in like this, I don't know, like cocoon, like a butterfly, trying to figure out exactly when I would open up. Because I started talking about the gym. I started threatening to do something about it. I started bitching a little bit more about my coaching position and justifying staying in it because of the wonderful retirement benefits that they promise you after you've spent a life of servitude at public education. And I don't know.
Well, our family moved. I mean, we're going to skip over
Yeah,
some details
in
just in the interest
2017
of
we had a
time.
move.
Yeah,
You
we moved
know,
to Houston. We found ourselves in just
opening up a new high school.
yeah.
We got here right after right before a giant hurricane. So welcome to Houston.
Yeah.
We were here for Hurricane Harvey.
Our youngest daughter, Michaela, went to kindergarten.
Yeah.
I found myself getting a personal training certification, starting to work.
Yep.
And
Well, and one of the things that
yeah.
along this personal growth and development thing, another mentor was a guy named Simon Sinek.
Right.
And he was very good at helping me put together a purpose and a mission behind everything that I did. And I gave myself a purpose as a teacher and a coach.
Yeah.
And I got very crystal clear about the words that I should choose for that purpose. And those words had everything to do with leadership because I wanted to help young men become who they were supposed to be. So at the time, I didn't own a gym. I didn't have the ability to help people go through a physical transformation that were in their 30s or 40s like I was. But what I did have was an ability to work with young men, work with young women, but mostly the young men on the sports field. Obviously, there were young ladies in my classroom, but that was a different environment. But I knew that the biggest need that I could address was the fact that there is an absence of good leadership in this world. And I told Marci, look, my purpose for staying in coaching is to cultivate leadership so that young men learn to champion their destiny and captain their domain. And I chose all those words for very specific reasons. And I hung on to that. And I stayed in education probably a few years longer than I needed to. COVID kind of messed up a lot of stuff too, and the whole world looked like it was going to go to shit in 2020, 2019, 2020, whatever it was. Yeah. Kids went home for spring break, and we never went back for almost a year. And it was ridiculous. You know, some people didn't go back for almost a year. Yeah. We still went back in the fall, but there was a lot of optional school attendance. The sports season was weird. You know, you had football players that had to wear gator masks around their face in a football game. I'm like, what are we doing here? So it was a lot of nonsense. The world was flipped upside down for a little bit. And, you know, there was one of those mentors that I mentioned, Rory Vaden. He said something one time that's the quote Marci gave us at the very beginning. Each of us is uniquely qualified to help the person that we used to be. And another one of my mentors discussed the idea that, you know, success in life is about the pursuit of your own potential. You know, how personally excellent can you become? And so I discovered that it's really the best way. You know, people will always talk about joy in the journey. You know, stop trying to sit there and go, you know, and only find happiness every day, this sustained, you know, level of euphoria. It's not there. Life's going to be all about highs and lows, and there's going to be the highlights and things like that. So what you have to do is, in my opinion, you have to find fulfillment in life in the pursuit of personal excellence. And when people don't even know that they're not pursuing excellence, how can they even realize what's causing their lack of fulfillment? Right. But if you can help a person realize, hey, look, you can find happiness, you can find more joy, you can find that fulfillment that maybe you feel like you're missing. If you could just learn what your life would look like if you were trying to pursue your own potential, if you were hunting down personal excellence every day. And so in 2022, I realized after 7 years of wanting a gym, but being too chicken shit to leave public education, I realized, because I had started a program that officially changed my life in January of 2022, the 75 Hard program. I did it for the first time after seeing some comments from a man that I respected, who I used to go to church with, who moved out of the area. I did the program, and before the end of the 75 days, I was so clear on where our life needed to go. I was so mentally clear on where our life needed to go, and I had no idea how to get there, but I knew what we needed to do. And I resigned from public education in the middle of the spring semester.
And I was okay with it because by this point I was like, we got to get out of education. Casey cannot do this anymore. And I could see how much it was weighing on you every day, every season, every
Well,
day. I mean, it was like, yes, please leave.
and
You're
you
good to
reminded
leave.
me, you
Yeah.
reminded me of something that I had forgotten, but I was talking about
Yeah.
building the gym, Champion Fitness Center, CFC, what the logo would look like,
Yeah.
what we would do for people. I was envisioning it out loud as much as I was just in my head.
Yeah.
And you reminded me of something that Jazmin said.
Yes. Will you talk
No,
about that?
you do that,
Oh,
because
you want
I
me to
don't.
talk about that?
I sort of remember it. So I can't remember when this happened. If it was before I left Ridgeland High School, and it was at Northbrook High School.
remember.
But I remember my daughter
Uh-huh.
saying this one point, because she had to have been 12, 13, something like that. You know what I mean? 'Cause
Right.
she's 16 now.
Mm-hmm. It was right after you had left public education.
Okay.
I remember we were driving in the car, and one of the conversations that we had was about getting a job when you are a teenager or when you're a young adult. And Casey was
Maybe
saying,
it was after we rolled through Chick-fil-A.
Yeah.
And we had this
Yes.
that's what it was. We had this very rude lady at the drive-through through Chick-fil-A who didn't say my pleasure, even though we said thank you.
See,
and
and I
it's in
don't
like their
remember.
company policy to
But-
say my pleasure.
Yeah.
I think we were in the car afterwards talking about how
We
sometimes you
were.
have to get jobs, and jobs can
Yeah.
be tough, and
That
this
was
and
the
that. And
conversation
they
of,
make you do things that you don't want to do sometimes,
or
and
maybe
whatever.
you have a boss that you don't like, or maybe
Yes.
there's coworkers you don't really get along with, but you're going to have to learn things when you go to a job someday.
Yes.
And Jazmin very matter-of-factly said,
Yeah, she had zero doubt in her mind. I remember it was like, huh?
And this was before we had a physical location.
We didn't have
before
anything.
We had anything really.
I may have been working on the business plan. I don't even remember.
I think you, at any rate, what she said was, well, I don't have to go get one of those jobs one day because I'm just going to work at CFC with you guys, right? And Casey looked at me and he was like, I mean, now I really,
like, I remember
have to open
when
the
Marci
gym.
told me this story again this morning. I remember whispering to her. I was like, holy shit. Like, I'll curse in front of my children. That's not a problem. But I kind of whispered to Marci. I was like, holy shit, I really have to build this thing. Yeah. Well, my daughters aren't going to believe anything I've ever said. Yeah.
Yeah, you weren't just building it for.
Like, I knew in 2022, this is what I did know. I knew that I had to go and fail and fall flat on my face for the rest of my life trying to build a business just so that my daughters could see that I wasn't full of shit. Because it terrified me to walk away from education. And I would sit there and talk about how courage is identifying what you're afraid of and walking straight towards it. And I didn't want to be a liar anymore. Yeah. Because what terrified me was leaving education and thinking I could start a gym. And it took efforts in other areas. I had to do real estate, and I had to sell solar for residential homes. I had to sit there in front of my computer with our Shih Tzu on my lap and try to figure out a business plan and create that. And this was before ChatGPT even existed.
We'll leave some of these things for another video because we need to wrap this one up here in the next minute or two. But I think
just I knew that the one thing I did know is this, and this is maybe the exclamation point. Yes. When I left education, and as 2022 kept going, before we had a location, a lease signed or anything like that, two things. One thing I'm going to share, and then Marci's going to talk about it. Mm-hmm. I looked at her and I said, look, babe, I want to open a gym, but I don't want my purpose to change. I still want the reason that I wake up every day to be that I'm there to cultivate leadership. But in this case, instead of just young men, the statement will be, every day I wake up to cultivate leadership so people, as in the people that are part of the Champion Fitness Center community, learn to champion their destiny and captain their domain. And I knew that meant I had to create a plan. I had to build the vision with core beliefs and core values. I had to give myself a just cause and a mission to attack. These are all things that I had learned from studying way too much about leadership and success and building my own business and personal progress and growth and all those things. And Marci looked at me. She's like, babe, how are we going to build a gym that's like, if the purpose is about cultivating leadership? And I said, I don't know. We're going to figure it out. So, but none of it actually became real until we took a trip to Home Depot.
Oh gosh.
And I had signed a lease. This was
Yeah.
after a few things had happened, real estate, solar sales. I'd gotten a job in med pharma, like selling some medical devices. Story for another day. But
Yeah.
so we were in a position where I looked at Marci and I'm like, babe, I think if we cash out my teaching retirement, we can sign a lease and start to turn this thing into a reality. And we're gonna fitfo this project, right? We're gonna figure it the fuck out. And she reminded me also, she's like, babe, it really sunk into me. We were going to Home Depot.
We were at Home Depot. Casey looked at me and he's like, okay, we got the lease. We got this place. We got to go build it out. Come with me to Home Depot. And I was like, okay. And I remember walking down the aisles of Home Depot with our giant flatbed carts. We had put plywood in there,
paint, other materials,
the siding that goes around the edges of the walls. We'd put power tools. Anyway, we had a
caulking, adhesive. There were all kinds of things.
I don't even know all that was in there. Yeah. And I looked at all this stuff and it hit me for the first time that this was real. And there was no turning back.
Like she was crying.
And
she got emotional in Home Depot. I was like, what is wrong with you? She's like, this is real. Like we're actually doing this. Like she was terrified, I guess, at that moment.
This was in July of 2023. We were going to open.
She was crying
September,
in Home Depot.
And I started to cry. And he was like, he was just like, it's going to be okay.
I got this. Yeah.
And from that moment on, I just thought, you know what? I'm just trusting Casey. I'm just going to trust what he's got in his brain. And every time I have trusted him with what has wanted, when he's wanted to execute his vision, it has worked out because I know where his heart is and where his purpose is, what he's trying to build. And I'm grateful. I'm grateful that he had courage to do something really hard and really scary. So I love you.
Yeah, well,
I think that's a great place to leave it for today.
Fair enough.
So,
I love it. Like I said, worst case scenario, at my funeral, if my daughters are telling me that, they're just, my dad failed miserably at business, but at least I saw him pursue what he wanted to for the rest of his life, and I didn't have to worry about him just being angry. Yeah. Through his 40s and 50s and into his 60s or whatever. Mm-hmm. Right.
Absolutely. Well, more stories for another day. We'll leave it at that. Comment, like, subscribe, all the things. Thanks for being here, everybody. We'll catch you next time. Kiss me.
Okay.